of Architecture in Cardiff University, and I met her in one of the conference, and she has great energy, and I'm really happy the kind of work that she's doing. So it's very interesting. It is of a great importance for student of architecture as well as for designer, because her area clubs the idea of system design as well as architecture. She wants to understand the correlationship between humans, non-human, biodiversity, the kind of problem that we have. So that is what her works looks at. And it is not just at theoretical level. She has initiated the idea of real life co-design laboratories. So where they design real world DIY prototypes with the communities in order to solve some problem towards the direction of social sustainability and eco-sustainability. So one of her great contribution is her PhD itself, that was about systemic approach in architectural performance. So without wasting much time, I would like her to continue and give her precious insights and knowledge to us. Yeah.
Thank you, Shanna. Thank you for inviting me. It's a great pleasure to give a guest talk in Bhopal whilst I'm in Cardiff. I hope you had a good lunch. For me, it's a good morning, everybody. Let's not make this long and start talking what I have to discuss. So the lecture will be about systemic approach to architectural performance, and yes, let's start. So giving a bit of background within my work. How actually you make certain work happen. Very often working only through academia doesn't help, well, working only through practice doesn't help, and working only through NGO doesn't help. That's why I have been synergizing all those things. So whilst I'm a lecturer at the World School of Architecture, I'm also chair of a network called Collaborative Collective. It is an NGO, and it is practice network. So the work I will be showing is has been done through teaching, practice, and NGO. And I will be talking in plural. And this is not because I think I'm an emperor. It is because all this work has been collaboratively designed, and I am not the only author. In most of the projects, I have been the project leader. It's not always the case from what I will be showing, but there are different people with different expertise who have contributed, and the story I will be telling you about those projects is a story through my research. Those people would present you these projects very often with completely different story, with the story from their expertise. So that's the original contribution. Everybody has its contribution in it, and that's why it's transdisciplinary. That everyone's disciplines gains from that. So what I will be talking about are sort of projects for this kind of nature I just explained. They are hyperobjective. Hyperobjective means that they have several objectivities. So, for instance, this house called Villa Sofia is not only house. It is using machine learning to develop the house itself, having several sensors, and it is of course co-designed by its users. Because those users, first of all, they intervene into the artificial intelligence themselves, seeing what is working, what is not working. But also the machine learning is learning from the inhabitants, not only users. If I'm talking about clients, but I mean users could be the grass growing on the rooftop or so on. This project is also hyperobjective for the reason that the design, the SAAP, the artificial intelligence, is actually designed to connect to the whole city system. And for the future development, it can be connecting, warning the city about accidents, disasters. For today, very clear mission about COVID crisis could observe the users as the users are ill, they need help, and it can send it to some central intelligence. If there is more houses like that connected, you can have intelligence controlling the virus, something like they are trying to do now in Singapore. Most of my research, however, is not about artificial intelligence. Is about biocorridors within the city. So if you see that small object which is wood responsive insect hotel, it is not only wood responsive insect hotel. This insect hotel is clearly placed on a biocorridor to. So you generate some sort of biotope on biocorridor, so you support the connectivity in the landscape. It has been co-designed through the local community and co-designed through the people actually performing artists or through the community that is present in that space. They co-designed the project of the connectivity in the landscape, and in addition, we mark prototypes like this as an insect hotel with QR code, and that QR code leads to the website where is the recipe how to reproduce that prototype DIY. So though one small object and you think you cannot make a change, through such systemic change you can generate many biotopes on many biocorridors, because people get to know how to do their similar thing in their garden, and on Sunday when they have no program, they can just decide to have program with kids and support generate an insect hotel, which is in here quite advanced scientific project. It's not the simple project you buy in IKEA. So getting back to systemic approach to architectural performance, I'm always referring it that it is the fusion of process-based fields, which is focusing on social, cultural, and landscape ecologies in urban environment, and it is focusing on transition towards post-anthropocene, towards people and other species co-living together, or people, other species, and other things, actually, to say that direct, and that should help us also with biodiversity and climate change adaptation. It is a holistic approach to architectural and urban design. So we are not discussing only how we design our facade, and it is happening, and it is tested, developed in a real life co-design laboratory, which means that if you place that object into real life, it is co-designed through real life, through its real environment. Therefore, you receive quite relevant outputs, and you are not the real author, the community is the author, because they develop it, they change it, they can even destroy it if they want. You observe what is happening with this, and you adapt it, you change that. For instance, this discussion with marking objects with QR code became with people wandering on Facebook. There were several people in the different social groups on Facebook posting pictures of our insect hotels, asking, does anybody know what it is? And time to time happened that there was some relative of mine or somebody who tagged me, Maria Davidová can answer this. And we realized if we place that QR code, people can find the information. And then we realized if they want to find the information, maybe they want to reproduce it as well. So getting back to systemic approach to architectural performance, it is trying to do exactly opposite thing than what is on this picture. This is from here, Cardiff, where you have this beautiful bird park with incredible biodiversity. Part of it is even a national park. Then you have fence, then you have motorway, then you have a wall, and then you have human settlements. And this discussion is about that for many years, people somewhat seen themselves being something else than nature, which is absolutely irrelevant discussion, because of course we all have biological body, and the human is equal part of the nature, the same way as a rabbit or a butterfly. And the discussion is then whether we want to separate us from other species, and whether we want to build those barriers which has been destroying both nature and humans, because people cannot live without the rest of the ecosystem. Maybe ecosystem can live without humans, but people actually need their ecosystem to perform. So getting back to the process-based field, systemic approach to architecture performance is the fusion of several process-based fields. I will name just some of them, but there are more that are included. I just tried to sort the most important ones, which is systems-oriented design. It is performance-oriented architecture. It is prototypical urban interventions, or what I call ecosystemic prototypical urban interventions. It is time-based design. And this is something I call non-anthropocentric ecosystemic services. I will make clear what is the difference from ecosystem services. And then there is that co-creation and DIY generativeness. So that's let's get to systems-oriented design. Systems-oriented design has been founded by Birger Sevalson, and he has been explaining systems-oriented design as a field between systems thinking, design practice, and systems practice, where it is the closest in those fields. It is the closest to design practice. It is joining research by design and action research, which is the most important point for me here, because I do those actions in the city, those interventions through research by design. Systems-oriented design has a very powerful tool that is called Giga Mapping, and that is used for codesign. This is again Birger's picture that is explaining what may not limited to Giga Maps include. So it includes timelines, collages, scenarios, diagramming, and so on. So on. The most important is that it is a tool for collaborative practice and namely lately co-design. This is my first GigaMap, which I did as a student for Birger, for my master thesis. I will get to this project later. It's just to refer to that and to show my approach. My approach is using co-designing together with prototyping. And how I achieve it is like when you have collaborative design, we start with minimaps. So every team member is asked to map their own universe, or team member or stakeholder. They map the field of the project according to their own universe. What are their interests? What would be important for them? After they do that, they start relating between the universes of the others. So when you understand yourself, you start to search for the relations with the selves of the others, and sometimes you develop something very, very synergetic, and you understand how you can live with others in synergy. This is combined in my work with full-scale prototyping. With Giga mapping, we use model makings and small prototypes, and then we combine it with full-scale prototyping, which is that placement to real life, to the real-life codesign laboratory, which generates another codesign with the real environment. And then we reflect, we observe those things, and once it is co-designed with the real environment, we also see what updates we can make. So we redesign those prototypes over time through the interaction with real life. So this is an example of one of my students, Giga Minimap, which is like kickoff starting point for generating the design process. This has been combined with conceptual model making. So it is very important specifically for people who struggle with imagining space. When you have models, is very clear and communicates very well. This would be another step within the design studio, when we cut all those minimaps and started relating different aspects from each minimap to generate collaborative design, and using different things and relating them. And then this in this case it is a timeline developing the design process further based on the different responsibilities of the students which had the different interests. This would be when we end it. It's this Giga map got never finished, because why would it? Because we started building the real life prototype. This would be its digitalized version for being exhibited with the real life prototype. So you interact with the community, people get to understand the process, they comment to that. It's very great discussion board with the people, and people understand what's going on. This would be then the real life prototype. This has been already integrating co-designing with like better co-designing through Giga mapping with local communities. So we moved to the pub of the location where we were designing, and we invited local people, local community to join us. So this would be at the beginning. This would be sort of like more almost like mind mapping to kick off what would be interests of the people. And then for further co-design meeting, people were asked to bring referential images, and we would be referring, we would be relating those images. It is sometimes very important. Many people from local communities don't like to draw because they feel they would be embarrassed if they draw something. They feel uncomfortable. So if you want them to get hurt, you just ask them to print out what they mean, and they feel comfortable, and they feel comfortable with starting drawing later on within the process. For other design meetings, we would have developed all that has been mapped into digital version of the map, and to draw on top of it, relating different things and checking what is relevant and what is irrelevant. Combining with digital designing, this has been then the grasshopper digital model of the insect hotel. Then you start building it with the community and exhibit the digitalized version of the Giga map with this, which is mapping different stakeholders and what do they want. We map the different stakeholders. It doesn't mean only people. We map trees with Giga mapping. Of course, you cannot make a tree to draw on your Giga map, but you can invite dendrologists to talk on behalf of the tree. So we would invite different experts in that would be able to represent different stakeholders. And that would be the presentation to the public, and they are keen to find themselves. So okay, I'm a representative of this and that social group, and blah blah blah. And here is the co-design in real life. This project is in a Ukrainian city called Slovotich. There we took, that's the best for the real life co-design laboratory. When you have good weather, you just start drawing in public space, inviting people to join you and work with you. You can combine it with model making. People get curious what is going on and join you and co-develop the work together. Then you start building, which raises the biggest interest of the local audience, because the people who are living there start telling you what they want, and this is uncomfortable to sit on, and kids tell you this is the best to play with, and so on and so on. This would be the latest project, co-designing with local community for Prague 22. Again, people draw their minimap, map their own universities, and then they started relating one to each other. This is shown with the local community here in Cardiff. I work with my students. Again, my students in the studio, mapping amongst each other prototypical interventions, and then going to local pub and engaging people with physical objects. When we get to performance-oriented architecture, this in my work is mainly related to responsivity. And this is on the picture is my reference. It's Norwegian traditional paneling. When you have this these planks cut in tangential sections, which are light so that they warp when there is dry and hot weather, and get narrow when there is high humidity and low temperature. Therefore, the building has climatic performance. You don't get humid, cold air into the building. You get dry and hot air. This it would be the concept I took further. This is simulation of a responsive wall. If I just okay. So if I show you the simulation of the responsive screen, it is paneling that is closing and opening in dry and hot weather. It has much higher openings than the Norwegian traditional paneling, and you develop the overlapping through that the panels from the center of the tree trunk warp more than the ones that are on the edge. Therefore, you can have overlapping and nothing is breaking. This would be the screen performing in real life environment. You can see that it's inhabited by algae, and you can see that the algae, when you check the moisture content, the moisture content of wood is much is actually 10% lower at the panel that is inhabited by algae than the one that is not inhabited by algae. That generates the performance because the algae absorbs the moisture, which means that the panels open more when it's dry weather, and that makes the algae to be able to live even on sunny surfaces, sun-exposed surfaces, and then it prevents the panels to warp in the other direction when the humidity is too high, when you have like a summer storm or something like that. This would be another prototype which developed It's a joinery based on the hygroscopicity of wood. I will not go into detail, it's just a reference. And this would be the real life application. I mean, the responsive wood concept is not that new. The current architectural application, I believe, except pavilion, but the application for housing has been only for this insect hotel, and I will explain how it works. You have those climatic chambers, so that is basically what we discussed with the landscape ecologist, that if you want to support biodiversity, generate the most the highest amount of diverse climatic conditions, because some species prefer humid climate, some species prefer dry climate, some wants to have sun exposed conditions, some wants to be in shadow, so on, so on. So therefore, this insect hotel is round, but also it is using panels from the different positions of tree trunk. Therefore, you generate the largest variety of the climatic chambers. Getting back to that diploma I did with Berger and Perkartat. This installation was temperature responsive installation that was diffracting and refracting light and sound. I always explain the installation that you don't mind the sound of the waterfall, no matter of the volume, but everybody doesn't like the sound of the motorway, and that's because it's simple repetitive input, whilst when you have complex input, it's pleasant to people. So this, if I play this, sorry, if I place this animation, so this is the animation, how the installation is moving based on changes in temperature operated by shape memory alloy, and it refracts sounds and light. And by the way, the structure is a system of antennas, so it was supposed to also absorb the radio waves, so you get a healthier environment in the city. This is full-scale prototype of one cell of that installation that was having that sound and light performance. This is the movable joint. This is 3D printed ball in ball that was supposed to operate that installation. Well, many people said at that moment when I was finalizing school, Christ, she will never find a job with such projects. I was actually contacted by office called Snoheta whilst graduating if I want to join them, and one of my first tasks in that office was together with other people, not only me, design the facade for this administrative building in Oslo, and it has been using a lot of ideas from those installations. So don't you think that what is experimental might be irrelevant? Getting to prototypical urban interventions, that's something defined by Cora office architects at the start of the millennium. It has been urbanist office, actually, again, critic of master plan, saying instead of master planning the cities, we should intervene and get the people's engagement. You can see those two people, how this intervention interacts with them. It's of course not only about people. Another installation of the insect hotel is in Cyprus, where where this is actually just by the United Nations buffer zone. United Nations buffer zone. I mean, it's sad story about the two nations in war. In the same time, the buffer zone generates great biocorridor across the city due to the political reasons, and we were extending this biodiversity, bringing more insects into otherwise very large urban heat island of very dense urban environment. That would be again the work about urban heat islands. These wood responsive pavilions are inspired by oriental screens called masharabias. Those screens absorb moisture at night when the humidity is high and evaporated during the day. Due to the responsive wood paneling, this humidity is evaporated during the hot afternoons. So those panels warp, so it generates air circulation, sort of proper of the humid air. Therefore, it generates pleasant microclimate in the city. That would be another pavilion. These are works with students, of course, through NGO again and through practice. This was taking that concept further through taking more dynamic shape, but also cladding the panelings as proper, so you have better air circulation. This is a project done through my practice. I was not the leader of this project, but it was a project as a meeting point for a festival called Experience Life City, something like that. And we were asked to make meeting points, and we were given the budget about £100, and at that moment I just said for £100 we can just make the public meeting point from the air, and that's what we did. We bought for this budget. All we could do was buy those balloons, and those balloons were climate responsive. So the balloons with the night humidity were lying down when there were no events happening. The balloons were sleeping, and with the morning, when the humidity was evaporating towards the afternoon, these balloons were jumping up, and when there was the afternoon, there was standing a pavilion marking the meeting points, which was the time of the events of the festival. This again intervention in the city called Slovutic. What is specific about this project? City of Slovutic was built after Chernobyl disaster to move the people into safe location after the disaster. Many people still work in Chernobyl. They are taking daily trains, but the power plant is closing, and the people have to search for new identity. And the great new identity is that Chernobyl has developed the most incredible biodiversity you can even find in civilized world. Therefore, you have a lot of ecological tourism there. You have a lot of conferences, like bioconferences going on there, and so on and so on. However, the inhabitants of the city still sort of don't accept that they were the most advanced city, Chernobyl, with the power plant, and they sort of don't accept that they feel left alone, being from something most advanced into something totally forgotten. And this project is to sort of give them co-develop with them a new identity, which relates to actually appreciation of that great biodiversity and appreciation of something. They have something special to regenerate the previous pride from being something actually disastrous to being something very precious. This would be a similar iteration of this project done with the local scouts, extending urban biodiversity in the city. Co-design with the local scouts, there were like pockets with early blooming species, and those were inviting early pollinators over spring. This installation was built for actually exhibition about wood structures, and it was built over autumn, and the exhibition was opening in spring when those onions started blooming, and invited all visitors, not only human but also non-human. Similar intervention in the city of Prague, where we tested something called opportunistic use. Though this sort of city furniture called Instant City, that that time it was abandoned riverbank. At this moment, it's almost overpopulated. Was inviting people to actually find the use of this furniture. Some were lying on it, some were playing on it, some were growing vegetables in it. So it was sort of expanding, not saying this is the chair and this is object to sit on, but saying, okay, this is an object that offers many opportunities, and take your opportunity and use it the way you want. Getting to the time-based design. Time-based design, as we discussed, the systemic approach to architecture performance as the process-based fields. Then time-based design is critical to this, and this has several layers. This is something related to design management. Very often, if you collaborate with stakeholders, very often you have misunderstandings. Very often, when you plan for the project, you talk to people, ask them, do you want to collaborate on this? They say yes, sure, and then they are surprised that you want something from them or want their capacities. Therefore, you generate this action diagram, which is clearly saying when which stakeholders act and when they have to make actions, when they work together, when they work separately, and what are the deadlines for different events. Of course, things go always different in every project, so it never works exactly like this. But people get a picture and understanding on what is expected, and what is expected as their contribution, and agree or disagree whether they want to join. So you avoid a lot of surprises, and you manage people very well because they get a picture of understanding. So time-based design starts like this. This diagram had to happen half a year before this has happened. This is already prototyping of one of the pavilions I was showing. Of course, testing real life. For the second pavilion, we run simulations, and we actually go to structural problems whilst testing the prototype real life. You know what it handles. Then discussing actually the research with public and co-designing, getting their attention, but also getting their inputs to the design, getting their discussions, and inviting different performers or different. The dancers are the most photogenic, but we would invite also different experts, and they would. They have always they are free what they want to discuss or perform, but they are asked to relate to the research the intervention is output of. This is this dancer being really interacting with the pavilion. Again, of course, building, opening. This dancer says it all, right? She perfectly interacts with the pavilion, and if you would have to use words about expressing what she wants to say, you would never make it. But observing her interacting with something you design, you get a new understanding of what you have been designing. Landscape architect. Actually, she picked the spot right in the middle of the pavilion, saying this is the perfect climate with the best humidity and with the best smell, and arranged everything so you get the best landscape smells in the city, landscape humidity in the city, getting best microclimate. And this is somebody who had a magnificent effect on our work. This blackbird took an opportunity to use our pavilion as city furniture, and thinking of it, we realized that it is something critically important, because today people put the needles on their windows, so no bird can sit on it, or even overheated surfaces nobody can sit on. And he just said that all it's like make furniture for me. It is a problem that if you have species migrating through the city, they have no place to rest, then they die of exhaustion. And of course, he became our mascot, and our graphic designer, who's actually made the first picture, has used him as a symbol for calling for different events of the festival. Again, building, opening. This would be seed bombing event. I would get to the reason for that later. Engaging people. You will not shift from Anthropocene to post-Anthropocene if you don't have people agreeing on it. They will rather die as the only species, kill all the species, and they die themselves, realizing that they cannot live without ecosystem. Time-based design, this insect hotel is co-designed over time, inhabited by algae, and co-designing its performance. Time-based design also relates to my different historical references studies. This would be something called Svalgang. It's Norwegian traditional architecture. The reason why I do research on traditional architectures in extreme climate is that recently we are receiving climate extremes even in otherwise mild conditions. We are getting extreme heats, extreme cools, extreme winds, extreme storms, rains, droughts, everything. Therefore, I study architectures that developed over the generations in the variety of those extreme climates, to find out what we can learn from those cultures. So this is something that is called semi-interior space. It's Svalgang that is generating sort of onion principle. You have onion peels of a different climate. So this is this space is not climatized. However, it is sort of insulating space for the climatized space, and it serves for various things like if you do woodworking, things like this, you cannot really do that in too much heated spaces because you get overheated because you do physical work. It serves for several social events, storing opportunities, and different ways. This is perfect space for swallows to nest as well, because the research on those spaces showed that the more extreme climate, the more opportunities for other species to live with us it offers. So people intuitively knew that. Or I don't know if it was intuition or if it was intention, but they generated spaces that also provided the spaces that could be shared with other species, and this is common in several architecture. This house I call transformer. This can unfold. You can fold it together, and it's enveloped space. You can unfold this envelope based on the climatic and user preferences for the moment. This house as well. This house can fully unfold. Yes.
We have 5 more minutes now.
Oh, really?
5 more minutes.
Okay. Well, I will go fast then. Okay. Well, then I will just go through that. I was talking too much. So this would be breathing walls and so on. Let's just get through that. Cappadocian examples: symbiosis with pigeons, symbiosis with algae to produce the best wines. Go through that discussion on. You have to generate also not only habitable landscape but edible landscape. Discussion on that. Discussion from practice, and here we go. Non-anthropocentric ecosystemic services. That's something as opposed to ecosystem services. Those are usually designed for benefit to people. However, they are not designed to benefit to others. It is designed that the nature generates the benefit to people. We try to actually integrate both humans and non-humans. So, for instance, this action, this is our landscape ecologist who is teaching this kid how to make seed bombs of blooming species. Therefore, this kid generates edible landscape for the insects that are in these insect hotels, and those insect hotels generate fast food restaurants for bats and birds in the location. Like, for instance, those we did several studies on what is living there and who we are supporting. Like experience different city festival where we had a table and taught people how to mix their bird food. So explaining that birds in our Czech location don't eat rice because they evolved based on what has been grown on Czech fields, and so on. I will just go fast through that. And of course, even using the body of NGO, here there has been like complaint about the proposed city metropolitan plan of the city of Prague, where there were serious disturbances within different biocorridors in the city. This would be in our location. I would like to mention this beautiful house from the city of Aarhus, where this bird is living in the structure of this house, and the discussion is that today civil engineers spent a lot of effort in finding out how to prevent birds to nest in the houses and in the facades, how to develop facades that birds cannot nest there. And I think it's wasted time and energy. Why don't we generate the facades which would incorporate the opportunities of habitation, which would be in coexistence and therefore support the biodiversity. Getting to the DIY and co-creation, I will again, we have 5 more minutes. So this is project from practice that I explained about extending the or being co-designed through artificial intelligence. It is co-designed also, like we have been taking out some ground. In the same time, we extended the landscape through the livable roof. The house is actually co-designed by the terrain organization. This beautiful atrium, I planned to have algae doing sun shading. It was rejected by the client at the end. They all long time wanted to do that, but then it was rejected. However, the landscape took over with this beautiful pond. We designed to actually support the biodiversity, because Czechia is now suffering with droughts. Therefore, if you make a pool that other species can get access to water, it can work well. And you see that the algae is taking over this pool. Of course, co-design with the client, co-design for the house with Giga mapping, and co-designing with artificial intelligence. This is the meeting point with the artificial intelligence. These are the racks where the artificial intelligence nests. And this is the sysloop design. Beautiful robotic piano, which you can ask to play whatever you want, and it can robotically play it, which is also learning tool on how to learn to play piano. And then that connectivity within the city, when you have the alarm system for the city and so on. Co-design with algae, I have already mentioned. Here is co-design with moss that generates this beautiful sleeping beds for us when we are, and we cover this and we uncover it when we are not in this tree house, and we are extending habitable landscape. Co-design with local people. If it's okay, I will play this. So those kids told us exactly where to put which lock. Co-design with local scouts. Those scouts have been building the structure, and they have been integrating their pockets with the onions, and in the same time over the winter before the exhibition started, they were generating, co-designing those bird foods cups where birds could eat, and they were renewing it over time. Then we expanded with the exhibition into the inside. And what we do, we engrave the QR codes on all those prototypes. And then if you go to QR code, you get to our website when you have the recipes on how to reproduce those prototypes yourself. So it is there is the generativeness that offers the expansion of those prototypes. So the prototype is actually just the exhibited object for DIY in several ways. If I start concluding, this is just a slide where we are designing a regenerative community. For this moment, we are integrating token economies into those, so not only the projects would be co-created by DIY, but there would be DIY value added to them through token economies. Let's start concluding. When it was some time ago, I just mapped several of my projects and mapped the different interactions that are happening over different agents. They have more or less complex feedback loops. This is just an example. And what I concluded is that the more interactions across different agents, human and non-human, living, non-living, it is always the most beneficial to humans. So more interactions you get more. Therefore, when we are discussing non-anthropocentric architecture, we are actually putting humans in the center, because we are the most benefiting. Of course, the others are benefiting the same. If everybody is benefiting, it is a more flourishing environment. Always when your neighbor is starving, it is not good, because even though you are doing well, they can attack you and steal your food, right? If your neighbor has what to eat, you don't have to worry that they will attack you. So let's just conclude. So the discussion is for a shift from a human-centric perspective towards a non-anthropocentric perspective, and for the transition towards from the Anthropocene towards post-anthropocene, towards biodiversity and climate change adaptation, where we can flourish together. And this is done in my work through research by design, and it is done through ecosystemic prototypical urban interventions and through their hyper-objective relations. If I get to the transition to post-anthropocene, this is done through cross-species co-living and through edible and habitable landscapes. This is done through analog and digital, or let's say biodigital design for the adaptation. And there are multi-agency interactions, and that generates the co-design process, which the process is the performance. The discussion is about I love young girl, but I think we have to renew his discussion. We want to transit from the city for people towards the participation of both biotic and abiotic agency that would lead to one co-performative ecosystem. And those hyper-objective media and agency then define the new ground for the field called systemic approach to architectural performance. Thank you. If you are interested in the work, you can follow me on ResearchGate. That's the QR code down there. So please read my publications, and thank you for your attention. I'm happy to take some questions.
Thank you so much, Mari. I would just open this platform for questions. So in this, you can unmute yourself and you raise your question if anybody has.
I can stop sharing. Can you see me now?
Yeah. So yes, Aman, can you unmute yourself and then you can raise the question?
Everybody, I was talking too much. Everybody, nobody wants to discuss anything. It has been.
Yeah. Hi, Marie. It's Aman. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, Marie. So I have a very like pinning question. It's like you do co-creation with other natural elements like algae and moss, which could go uncontrollable. Like maybe they overgrow or they don't grow as much. So how do you address this issue?
That's a very good question. Thank you for that. Actually, you know, the problem of people, I think, is that they want to control the environment. I think we shouldn't want to control the environment. That's to control is the field from engineering. When you discuss engineering wants to program and control and want to say what is happening, and if you can't say exactly what is happening, then they think it's wrong. I think it's the wrong approach, and we will never be getting to flourishing community if we don't integrate the discussion with others. Therefore, yes, they can overgrow, and maybe it's good. Maybe it's good for the ecosystem that there is many more of them. For the moment, it's humans who are overgrown, and maybe
Okay.
you should have been controlling us. Is that it's now taking control over us, that it's too much of us?
Okay. Okay. I got that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Silence.
Okay, Marie, actually, there is a question from one more student. He's
Mm-hmm.
Rick. So he asks, like, how would you speculate the future of responsive architectural practices in an urban setting? In the light of the current situation caused by COVID, do you think it has a potential in making things better?
Definitely. For instance, a discussion about those semi-interior spaces. I mean, I'm renting an apartment here in Cardiff, and I have my own apartment in Prague. My apartment in Prague has a balcony. My apartment in Cardiff is very beautiful, but doesn't have any semi-interior or exterior space where I could go. And it is not only about the responsiveness about climatic settings, but having variety of spaces with different climates, different opportunities is specifically good for having something like lockdowns. And of course, if you have spaces when you can see other species, it's just enriching, right?
Yeah,
I'm watching David Attenborough just to feel well, because just to see nature.
okay. Okay.
So I also have a question regarding this giga mapping. That is the process of how you approach the system design. So when you were doing giga mapping from minimap to giga map, were these co-design process was also involved? That means people from the context or the community were also involved in it.
Yes, but depends what workshops we do. We always start over and over again. So when we have co-design workshop, yes, we ask the people for the first part of the co-design workshop. We ask them to map their own universe, and then they start relating. Depends when. Sometimes we cut the initial minimaps and make them to organize the things. Sometimes we ask them to draw the minimaps, and then start relating over table across each other. But that's the process when actually people feel engaged. They feel that they are heard. They tell their story about their minimap, and then they start relating to each other. So we would have part when they would minimap, then they would present their minimap, and then they would start relating across each other, and then they would start interpreting the relationships that are happening across each other, and from that a new design emerges.
Yeah, that's a very interesting process. So any other questions? If we have any other questions? No? So I have an announcement to make. So Mari is also joining us in India sometime soon, maybe in the next semester. So we will
Okay.
definitely avail this opportunity to understand and actually implement such prototyping and DIYs in India to some of the marginalized community. So yes, so whatever questions you have and whatever we can grab from her, and she can in terms of methodologies, giga mapping. So yes, so you are open, you can ask many questions to Mari when she is here also.
Yeah, that is great. This was just a teaser. We will start working hands on. It will not be just that linear thing of me talking and you listening. We will start doing hands on and start working together. I'm looking forward to that. Well, thank you, Shanu, so much. Thank you so much for this. It is great opportunity, and I just can't wait to get to Bhopal.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you for that amazing presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye bye, bye bye, and thank you everyone.